almost 1 million of our customers connected to the satellite network, and I think last count we were 13 million texts sent, but it's just exponentially growing. We were the first in the world to launch this service commercially, and we're immensely proud of it, and we're only seeing the service get better every day.
The New Zealand Tech Podcast, brought to you by Gorilla Technology, proactive and strategic IT.
Greetings and welcome along to the New Zealand Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Spain, and a real privilege today to have Joe Goddard joining us from One New Zealand. He's the Chief Product and Marketing Officer. Welcome along, Joe.
Thank you very much, Paul. Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking time out to come across to the studio today.
No worries, no worries.
Maybe you could just give listeners a little intro on where you fit into the big wide world of tech and telecommunications in New Zealand.
Yeah, where do I fit in? Okay, so I'm Chief Product and Marketing Officer at One New Zealand, and so my team is responsible for turning our network into products and services that New Zealanders and New Zealand businesses consume, and then also telling New Zealand about it, marketing it to New Zealand, and making sure they know what the best of what we've got to offer. But I've been in telco for what is it now? My daughter's 18, so it's one more year than that. Yeah. So 19 years, and I love it.
Fantastic.
Absolutely love it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, well, great to have you here. Of course, big thank you to our show partners, to One New Zealand, also Spark New Zealand, 2 Degrees, Workday, Fortinet and Gorilla Technology. Well, let's jump in. Today we've got some fascinating stories to delve into from a New Zealand perspective, some international news, and of course, very keen to get some insights into what's happening in the One NZ world, and delving into the interesting things that One is doing. First up, Internet New Zealand have their latest survey out, and all sorts of sort of fascinating data in there. It's packed with I guess the responses from surveys across New Zealand population, and I know it's hard to know exactly what data to jump into there. One that stood out for me is that 47% of online New Zealanders are spending 4 hours a day on the internet for personal use.
Yeah, I thought that was. I mean, we all probably think that's happening, but that's incredible. Half of New Zealand spending 4 hours. I guess
or even that they're willing to admit it, right? Because
Yeah.
this is a survey. Because you guys will probably see some, see different data as well, and you might, potentially your data would suggest these numbers are higher than people will admit too.
Yeah, there probably is. But if you think about people consuming all their TV content over the internet now, so assume that's gone into it. So a lot of people are streaming. I know at our home, we're all watching different things across different TVs and phones and iPads and things at the same time. So when you maybe put a couple of hours of TV viewing in there, maybe it's not too bad. But I thought that was it was amazing, and you see the spread across the age groups. It's not one age group going here. It's everybody.
When I saw there was a breakdown there, and the younger cohort, because this was 18 plus that was surveyed, the highest cohort was 18 to 29. I've got here 63%, and then that sort of trails down to 31% for those 70 plus. Yep. So, there are variances there for varying reasons. A note that I saw just on some of the summary data that was prepared was for that 18 to 29 age group, TikTok seemed to be top of the list.
Yeah. I don't. So I've got a daughter. She's 18, and so I can understand that. And the amount of, she calls them TikTok facts. The amount of TikTok facts that are coming from her, and I can see that. I mean, they're just new ways that kids communicate, and it's a phenomenon. The other thing I saw in there was the take up on AI. So I was looking. Was it? Facebook took a year to have like a million users. ChatGPT took 5 days.
Incredible, isn't it?
And New Zealanders are moving we're moving just as fast to these new tools and new applications. So that's good to see that we're trying it out. obviously people have got misgivings as well around security and things like that, but we're definitely having a big crack at it, which is
And I think that is important. As a country, if we're not understanding the new technologies, then our chance to be able to leverage them and to succeed as a nation, is diminished. But of course, there are flip sides and challenges to every technology.
absolutely
And it's part of this journey really. There were some other numbers. A quarter of people online using WhatsApp daily. Above that was Instagram. A third are using it daily. 15% for TikTok if you look at that kind of across the board. So yeah, some really insightful bits and pieces, details around sort of use of things like Reddit and LinkedIn, Snapchat is on there, use across X, WeChat, Discord, Threads, Telegram, Blue Sky, Mastodon. So some of these sort of smaller social networks, and I think that can be quite fascinating to have a look at. I think it was Parliamentary Services who exited X or Twitter very very recently. So it's interesting to look at some of the data on these things, and it's much better to have the data and to be able to be informed from a decision making perspective than to go in and I guess to make decisions without the data. So this is a really helpful and insightful document.
Yeah, and and obviously it's not stopping the growth of these applications and these apps and what people are trying out, but people are getting more and more aware of their personal data, their privacy, their scams, obviously a big one. And so we annoyingly, Jason always likes the big bold statements, but he actually backs it up. So he wants us to be the most AI enabled telco on the planet. So he hasn't gone for just in New Zealand, he's gone for on the planet, and he got up on stage in front of, I think it ended up being millions of people that watched it with Salesforce and cleared that. So, and there's two reasons. So how can we improve our experience for customers, and how can we do things more efficiently and better and take away a lot of that complexity that can come with telco? So we see AI doing that, but also, if we're trying it out and using it, how can we help New Zealand businesses as well? So how can we help the rest of the community go? Because we have the privilege of great relationships with Google, with Amazon, with Salesforce, with OpenAI. So how can we bring that knowledge and of what we learn to New Zealand businesses? And obviously we have a lot of customer data, so privacy is incredibly important. So yes, doing things with the right guardrails is why we want to go fast. We won't break the guardrails. So how we can help educate New Zealand about what we're seeing and so the rest of New Zealand can use these tools really quickly but be really aware of the downsides.
Yeah, I guess as a I don't know, a giant petri dish, you can on NZ you can try out lots of different things and see what works, but also for those customers or others kind of looking in at what you're doing, there's the knowledge that you've got that maturity from a cybersecurity and a data privacy perspective over a long period of time. Whereas sometimes what we see, say at the startup end, is a startup comes up with with an idea, moves quickly, breaks things and so on, and that doesn't necessarily have the best of consequences. And it's maybe some of those sort of downsides that have led to the result that, or one of the comments was among those who know at least a little about artificial intelligence, they found that almost half are far more concerned than they are excited, which I found quite fascinating, because within the tech world, these stats would probably be quite different. But looking at the data, more excited than concerned. In this latest 2025 survey, 12%, equally concerned and excited, 35%, more concerned than excited, 47%, and those who had no concerns or didn't know was set 7%. So it's like, wow, that is definitely something that has kind of carried out, I think, across the general populace, is concerns around AI. Now, my pick, if you kind of delved into this, is it's all the talk of jobs disappearing and things like that probably is the cause of the biggest concerns, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, the tech is changing so fast that no one can sit and tell you that they know everything. So with uncertainty about what it is and what it does and how it does it, I guess would come with a little bit of fear. And I mean, we're seeing this technology move so fast, and I can understand why New Zealanders are concerned about it and feel, because no one likes feeling out of control and like feeling like their data and their stuff about them is out there in the wild and not being in control of it.
Yeah.
And that's why we want to work with, especially New Zealand businesses, around telling them what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so we're all learning. Like they don't have to make the mistakes. So that we've been there before them. We know how to put the right guardrails around it, so they can use it safely to improve what they do for New Zealand.
Yep. There is actually a bunch more kind of in there. So I think Joe Allen will put a link up to the report at InternetNZ's website for those that want to have a look. The report actually has a different opinion and I guess some data on what people's main concerns are. So if you want to look into what those are, then have a look and delve in. On other topics, we've heard news of Datagrid having secured approval to build a hyperscale data center near Invercargill. Now, they're not so much calling it a hyperscale data center, but more, I'm seeing the terminology, New Zealand's first AI factory. And this is significant in terms of its scale. I think that the investment involved. There was some commentary or some media reports last year talking about the first phase of this being a $3.5 billion data center due over the next couple of years, 78,000 square meter facility, and tapping into a significant amount of power, 280 megawatts, which puts it really right up there for New Zealand as one of our biggest consumers of technology, if this goes ahead. So
first of all, they've picked the right place, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
it's
Benmore
nice
and
and cool
Clyde,
down there.
it's nice and cool,
and power, right?
Yeah, it's right beside where most of New Zealand's renewable energy is coming from, and so obviously a lot of the cost of power is actually like in the transmission, so you're close to it, so you're losing less. So I think isn't it Norway that's like the leading data center country in Europe, because they use their cool climate, they got great infrastructure. I think
heard of them in Iceland as well, and so on. So there's
I'm not saying Invercargill was quite Iceland, but it can be a bit nippy down there. So what a great place to put it, with so close to renewable energy.
You better be careful what you say.
So
You might
about
upset
Invercargill,
your Invercargill born boss there.
True. getting close to STI time, so I need to.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating. They're talking about a bunch of jobs there. I saw a number 1,200 jobs. Now I'm not sure what that mix is between the numbers to build and establish it and what are required ongoing. I've often seen some pretty light numbers in terms of the number of people required for data centers, but of course this is sort of the next level on from what we've seen in terms of data centers in New Zealand. Now the other piece is Tasman Ring Network, which will be a subsea cable that will be linking Oready Beach across to Australia. And this is I guess, giving resiliency. So if there were to be earthquakes and other issues between, say, Auckland, where it's really pretty close to Auckland that most of our fibre optic cables are landing internationally today. So that would bring an extra resilience, which I think is good for New Zealand, and just good overall for us to keep adding more connectivity, and there'll be performance benefits and so on as well.
Oh, absolutely. So first of all, congratulations to the team at Datagrid for having the guts to go after a big development like this. Like if you think about how important moving loads and loads of data around at really, really high speeds, at low latency, having an AI factory, I assume it's going to be packed with GPUs.
Yeah.
So hopefully they've got their order into Jensen and they're on the list waiting for those. But good on them. So New Zealand needs data centres that are close by. Like lots of people are talking about sovereign AI as well. Like lots of organisations will require you to make sure your data isn't going offshore. So we need AI data centres, and if New Zealand's going to keep on, punching above our weight, which we like to do on the world's economy, we need that kind of investment and people with the guts to go after it. And if Norway can do it, why can't New Zealand?
Yeah. I think some people will be concerned about the power usage, and to me that's a real nudge that as a country, if we're going down this sort of track, we do need to keep going on our energy resiliency and continuing to build out the renewables offerings and so on, so that we're not suddenly going, oh, this is really cool, we've got really good AI, but we can't afford to pay our household power bills because they've gone up to sort of extreme levels. So there's you can't have a lot of extra power being drawn without the generation increasing, which has been increasing over recent years. But yeah, we've probably got some challenges on the power infrastructure front, right?
Yeah, but I think the power companies are getting behind this. We've got amazing history of renewable energy, and we've got lots of water. We get lots of sun. So the opportunities there. It's just around, I guess, having the guts to invest long term in these kind of initiatives. Because you're right, like the limiting factor, obviously you need good fibre connections, which we're sorting that out. You need the right environment. You need to be able to build these things. You need chips, but you need power as well. So yeah, how do we make sure that we've got the right investment around power? Because I mean, power's just like, if you look across most developed economies, power usage is directly related to the performance of the economy. So yeah, again, if we can think big around that, it's amazing. I happened to sit. I was at this conference in Austin. It's called South by Southwest, and it was just between. I was between two of the keynote speakers. There's about half an hour gap between them, and I just started yarning to the person beside me, and they worked for this company based in Austin called Base Power.
Yep.
And Texas has big power blackouts, massive power blackouts. So their company it's an ex-Tesla employee and I think an ex-Apple employee, help funding houses to put solar up and batteries. So not only do they store some power if there's a blackout, but they're also putting it back onto the grid.
Fantastic.
And because the price of batteries and solar is coming down at a quite a rate of knots. So yeah, it got me thinking about New Zealand and what we should do. I heard a story. One of the power companies was building a big battery around more storage and obviously, but yeah, should every New Zealand home have their own store?
Yeah. Well, you've got, as Australia have done, and we've got some large battery storage that we've talked about on the show in the past, and then there's also increasing options available. And I forget the name of there's a company recently that's launched that's specialising in attaching batteries to your home, and of course it's been happening for a while, but their particular approach to it gave a pretty convincing case in terms of the return on investment for doing that, and being able to potentially even if you're not selling back to the grid, but even being able to buy power at off-peak times, so you're then not putting a load on the grid at peak times, and you're using that power that you acquired overnight or when the loadings are different. So
so keeping that cost down for consumers while letting the generators, build new generation for data centers or powering the New Zealand economy without it being a big worry about, hey, this thing's going to cost us a whole lot of money. I think it's like I say, I think it's great what Datagrid are doing, and wish them all the success.
Yeah. And then also on the New Zealand front, I saw Consumer New Zealand have been pushing back a little bit, warning over our new barcode standards, and there's this proposed QR code for food labelling, and their concern is that it could restrict access to vital, nutritional and allergen type information. Now, I guess this is sort of the world we're in, where there's increasing, digitization, and how much information, should you pack into a label? How much more information can you then get to online? Going forward, we're expecting to basically have these QR codes on your products at the supermarket, and you will be able to get a lot more information. And so the debate really is around, well, what is necessarily information? How much do you print on labels? And GS1 is the New Zealand entity. I think they've gone through name changes and so on over the years, but they've been in this area of doing barcodes for New Zealand. They're the non-profit industry body. And they seem to get it that, look, the core information does need to remain on product labels. You don't want somebody having a dangerous allergic reaction because a product wasn't clear around what was on the label. But certainly some benefits of the kind of QR code addition as well.
Yeah, you can understand both sides of the story. So GS1, they'll be saying they'll be making key information more accessible. What happens if you don't have good eyesight? Like, it's pretty hard to read those labels. So they're probably providing a way that can be, that makes it more accessible. Then there's people who haven't got a smartphone. So so we think about that every day around, we still have people on really basic, like what we call basic handsets, but voice is really important to them, and that's all they want. So it's really hard to. I know it's really hard to keep everyone satisfied, but Consumer New Zealand always do a great job of giving those groups a real voice. So I'm sure they'll get to the right sweet spot there.
Yeah, yep. I'd like to think so. I think we do need to nudge where we feel that there are challenges coming into play, and organisations and people that sort of stand up and raise those things are really, really important. On to the international front, a few interesting things going on.
A
couple we want to dive into now. SpaceX apparently going to be be doing an IPO and getting listed on the stock exchange. So linked into that, all sorts of bits and pieces, and we won't go into that sort of bigger story. But I see there being a bit of upset out there amongst those with their own private planes, and they've been using effectively consumer Starlink to get connectivity while they're flying their planes, which is absolutely brilliant from their perspective as maybe a casual owner of an aeroplane. I mean, I know a few people that fly planes, and it's not for everyone, but they are somewhat
aggrieved.
Yes, around the situation. So they were able to pay basically consumer type rates, put their satellite dish, inside their plane, so it was able to, I guess, attach it to a window, etc., and away they go. And now what we're seeing is Starlink are saying, hey, if you want to use this thing in flight, then that's actually a pretty special sort of service. So we're going to, cut your consumer or make your consumer connection stop working at certain speeds. and then put you onto the commercial rates. Now, interestingly enough, just in the last few weeks, I stumbled upon something within the Starlink website, and I saw a $5,000 figure mentioned for some in-flight use. That's the number that's in my head. But as we've gone and looked into it, what Starlink are actually doing is they've got these pricing tiers. So if you've got a lower cost, not such a fast plane, then they've got a base plan. I think it's $250 US dollars. That's up to 300 miles an hour, and then you have a data cap as well of 20 gigs, and you need to pay for more. And then that progressively goes up. And just looking before, so if you've got a plane that's doing more than that, which is I think it's about 480 kilometers an hour, then you're in the next tier. So that base fee is $1,000 a month. And then if you've got a jet, then there's a top tier for jets, which is sort of $10,000 a month. And I'm sure the airlines have got their own fee structures as well. Actually, it seems reasonable, to me, that consumers shouldn't be sort of subsidising, some of these more unique use cases. But of course, when a company gets started with something, you haven't developed all the different offerings, and then you see what uses people put on them.
Yeah, and we build networks, you spend all the money building the network.
Yeah.
And you've already spent it, and then you need to get a commercial return out of that. And SpaceX and Starlink have been launching rockets and satellites at a furious pace and creating connectivity that we just haven't even seen before to places where you couldn't get connectivity. So yeah, I think it's okay that they're still trying to work out their commercial model on the back of that. They'll probably have to have it quite in order when they go to the IPO, but yeah, that the jet owners are having to pay a little bit more. Okay, I think you're right. Like consumers subsidising commercial use doesn't seem fair. So I think they'll come up with the right commercial model. It's probably been trailing their building of networks and their launching of rockets. So, but I think they'll get there because what will come along after that is competition as well. So there's other providers and they'll put pressure on them to come up with the right model.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and we're not that far off from widespread alternatives, and that's I guess what Amazon have been working their way on, and even in the in the mobile phone side, there's competition kind of coming there in terms of that connectivity. So yeah, things never sit still for
and competition is always great. Like it's always great
for too long, right? Yeah. But yeah, some of these things will get adjusted along the way, but I imagine it's pretty uncomfortable for those that thought, hey, we're on a good wicket here, we can use this consumer tech, and then Starlink have worked out a way to actually measure that and turn off the tap when you're moving too fast. I don't know what that means for individuals that are maybe trying to use satellite mobile connectivity in their planes, whether that will ultimately get turned off, because I'm aware that has been in operation through varying mechanisms for a while.
Yeah, the solutions they're coming up with planes provide some of the speeds they're getting and some of the use cases and what people can do in the aeroplane now with the connectivity are pretty amazing. So yeah, I think it's only going to be good for the airline industry that Starlink and the like are getting involved there.
I think they're now aiming for early April for Artemis II, their first sort of crewed mission back towards sort of space, where they want to sort of circumnavigate the moon. I think it's pretty exciting to sort of watch. It's not exactly history repeating, but to a degree, it is. We're kind of back to the 1960s of who can get back to the moon, send people back to the moon, successfully. And of course, the technology has massively changed, and so really, really fascinating to watch. But I did read that they're looking to skip their third wet dress rehearsal with Artemis II, because running that, and you'd think, well, you want to run as many rehearsals and tests as you can.
Absolutely.
But apparently that can cause sort of degradation, and you don't So that's that kind of balancing act. Testing too much, and you actually, potentially wear out the rocket that you want to send
they're
off
quite
to
expensive.
the moon. So bit of a balancing act. But that you would presume they've got a very high confidence level after past things that have gone wrong in previous decades, and they're only doing this if they're very, very confident.
Yeah, and interesting. Yeah, interesting to see NASA back in the news because it's all been SpaceX and of course our own rocket lab.
Yeah.
Like they've proven they can do these things in a different way, much more efficiently. And I know obviously NASA has contracts with private now. So yeah, interesting to see them back in the news.
Yeah. So exciting to follow this one. And the telephone, 150 years old this month since Alexander Graham Bell made the very first telephone call, and how far we've come. Isn't it insane, the sort of connectivity and communications capabilities that we have now, and the fact that we can't see any of it. Back then, there were you'd be able to you're on a phone, you could see the physical copper kind of where it went exactly, and now all of that is very, very largely redundant, other than getting high speed fiber and the like to premises.
Yeah, I mean the rate of development has just been incredible. I still remember I'm from Blenheim, being down the Marlborough Sounds, and they had a party line, you knew.
Describe a party line for someone who's never heard of it.
So a party line is that you're basically sharing a phone line with your neighbours, and your neighbours. This was down the Sounds. The neighbours were miles away from each other, and by the ring, you would know that's for you. So so there was a certain type of ring, okay, I can pick up that phone. But anyone, you could just pick up the line and you'd be listening to someone else having a chat.
Yeah.
So we have come a wee way from there. And it's incredible, like, as soon as these services, like, we put them in, and then and we think, oh, that's such a movement forward. And then, like, the next day, customers just expect that's the norm. Like, and that's why it's great to be in our industry, because customers keep on challenging you every single day to just make your services. They've got to be like oxygen. They're just going to be always on.
Yeah.
So so well done, Alexander. 150 years.
Yeah.
Look what you've done.
Well, let's delve in. I'm keen to hear what's happening, Joe, in the world of One NZ. Lots of things that we could delve into. I guess, satellite is probably one of the most exciting areas in the tech and telecommunications world at the moment, and specifically being able to connect our mobile phones directly to satellite. How's that actually been going? I've heard some numbers, like huge numbers of text messages being done through satellite connectivity. So that's, I guess, folks that are outside of the core coverage areas, which in a country like New Zealand, how much of the sort of the physical, land mass is covered, by mobile networks versus, what's outside of the traditional cell towers? Yeah,
so our we call them terrestrial networks, our land-based networks, they cover about 60% of New Zealand. So, and that's generally where people, work and live. But there's 40% of New Zealand that isn't covered. And in that 40% of New Zealand are some of the most beautiful spots of New Zealand, and Kiwis love outdoors and reaching those spots. But also, importantly, the surrounding waters, and we love the water here. That a lot of that doesn't have coverage. So when we found out about this, like that SpaceX were doing this, there was a few things actually. There was one that, providing connectivity to those areas, there's kind of the safety aspect of it that was really important. And New Zealand's being hit by more and more weather events. And we obviously feel those weather events because we'll have parts of our network go down, power out, fibre cut, and we were noticing that's happening more and more. Obviously the environment's changing, and we've seen how much the weather can move around New Zealand now. And all of those things were coming together, and SpaceX and Starlink started talking about ending black spots. And so That was really interesting. There's something called Mobile World Congress where everyone comes and joins up every year, and we see the new things. And a few of our teams started talking to the SpaceX team, and they came back and talked to the boss about it, and he just said, "We've just got to get this, and we've got to get it in New Zealanders' hands as fast as possible." So,
how hard was that to sort of cut a deal and negotiate?
So it's interesting. I'm sure I'm not giving away too commercial information, but the first price was a large price. So obviously New Zealand's a small place population. Obviously we punch above our weight, but we were getting a price that maybe a US price based on a much bigger population, because like quite rightly it's a US company and that's where they thought that's where the market or big European countries, big Asian countries, and there's little old New Zealand. But we need the service more than those countries. So the first price we got was large and eye-watering, and we'd kind of given up. Well, like the team were going, well, that's we'll get there later on when it comes. And our boss, annoyingly, because he's an optimist, it's always the glass is always half full with Jason. He said, have another crack at it. It's really important for New Zealand that we get this service. And we said to them, Oklahoma. And they said, yeah, we know Oklahoma. We're from America. Thanks for that. Well, we have the population of Oklahoma. What's the Oklahoma price?
Yeah, okay.
And we got a deal done. I mean, we'd given up. Well, a lot of us had given up. We got a deal done, and we promised them that we're small, but we'll move fast. And
right, so that was helpful for them to have a telco who's willing to really push
the boundaries,
and to really test the technology and get it running as quick as possible, whereas some others might take a lot longer to be able to get it active. Actually in their interest to have a partner willing to do the R&D and be a bit of a test bed.
Absolutely, because we knew that the service would save lives. So when we were making decisions around when do you go, when do you launch it, it was always, well, if it could save a life, would you take that risk and go the next day? So that was always the test. We had a really small working group on it, and all the big decisions there was no hierarchy in the team. We'd basically raise our hands. Who's up for going tomorrow? And we'd raise our hands. Okay, it's a majority. We're off. And because it's no mean feat because it's actually a merging of our terrestrial networks and these satellites that are flying around at hundreds of miles an hour up. And it was not easy to do. And bringing together our network, the satellites, device makers. Yes, so they've all got different chipsets and different software versions running over them. We had interesting discussions with the FCC. So I only knew the FCC from America from the Eminem song. And it turns out they're more than that, and they actually they have to give you permission to do things. So our Commerce Commission and MB were amazing. Like they got it straight away around what the service could do for New Zealand.
Yep.
FCC took a bit longer because they expected America was going to be the first. And after all that, we were the first in the world to launch this service commercially.
That's pretty cool.
And we're immensely proud of it. And and we're only seeing the service get better every day. I think we're up to it's about almost 1 million of our customers connected to the satellite network, and I think last count we were 13 million texts sent, but it's just exponentially growing. So New Zealanders are using it more, and over the summer, the amount of stories you hear around how it's helped people. Yeah, it's like the summer before it was we only launched in December. Only a few phones, and it's summer where most people are out and about into to those parts of the country where they need it. But this year it's just been amazing. I was doing the Timber Trail, which is this mountain bike in the King Country, and it's beautiful, absolutely amazing. But the track has lots of parts where there's no mobile coverage, and Epic Tours, who this South African man who runs it, he does an amazing job. He talked about that when he sends people out, there's only parts of the track he can come and meet you. So he had a family, really fit, but had a young daughter who was quite young, and he was worried she was too young to do the track. Spoke to the parents, it's the weather's not that great. Did you really want to do it? They said, no, she'll be fine. And he said he would sit there and worry the whole time until they arrived at the camp. So they were able to text and say, I know she is having a little bit of problems, and he was able to come in and meet them at that nearest spot, which just wouldn't have been able to do before. And those stories are just multiplying around how New Zealanders are using it.
Yeah. You mentioned the satellites going quite fast.
Quite fast, yeah.
I just looked it up because I was curious. Yeah. Between 27 and 28,000 kilometres in our whoop around the world in between 90 and 95 minutes.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And obviously the density of, like, I think it's 600 satellites up now with SpaceX and the Starlink constellation. I mean, they're moving so fast that the time between, we're only having very small times between where you can't get a signal, and that service is only going to get better. We're talking to them about, they're about to start. They're planning the launch of their second generation of satellites, which is going to mean you can do even more things in those previously out of coverage areas.
Now, you've launched a sort of a data capability. I haven't had a chance to really kick the tires on that. Run us through, what you're doing. You've got a kind of WhatsApp, calling. Why WhatsApp?
So the first thing was, obviously, as soon as we launched text, all our customers saying, when are you going to launch voice? Yeah. So again, not thanks for New Zealand, it's amazing you've done it. When are you going to enable voice? So voice was always really important to us, and obviously WhatsApp runs over data. It's a little harder to get the technology working over like what our normal voice connectivity. So that was the fastest way into providing a voice service.
Right. So that could cope with the little dropouts or whatever issues you might get if the satellite's not quite in coverage.
Absolutely. Can deal with that little bit of, so you'll hear a little beep when you're on the call. That's just the time in between one satellite's gone past and the other one's coming. But we're seeing, I mean, especially our business customers, we're talking about, it's interesting text, but I need voice. So it's not only enabling, apps like WhatsApp, but also weather apps. We've got AccuWeather out there, Plan My Walk, and we actually want to hear from New Zealand businesses about their apps. So we'll help you make your app satellite enabled so you can get more out of it. And that's, lots of businesses use apps to run their businesses for their staff and things like that. So we'll help you get through the iOS accreditation and the Android accreditation so you can run your app on satellite. And like, connectivity is important to do business. Being able to do business beyond where you can right now is only going to help. So there are lots of businesses, especially with IoT applications, Department of Conservation who've come on board with us and been one of the first ones to, they got how connecting their people outside. So I mean, they were running really expensive, I think it was Garmin Reach, and so because they needed their workers to be connected and health and safety and things like that. But we're now talking to them around how do they monitor how do they do pest control. Interestingly, how do they monitor the long drops on? So I say I know way too much about long drops since I've been talking to Doc, but just how it helps their business not only to be more effective but also run more efficiently. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah. Just wanted to sort of tap in on some of the other new things that you've been doing before we finish up. What would be the top of the list? I know you've got partnership with Dosh, that's who we've had in the studio before, and you're doing a bunch on the AI side, which we've sort of tapped in on. Which do you think would be most interest? I guess
at the centre of what we're doing at the moment is this new product we got, which is One Wallet, which is and we fill it with these things called phone dollars. And so the way you need to think about that is it's like air points to buy your next phone. So what we worked out is that a lot of customers are having problems with how expensive phones are getting. They're becoming more and more just you can't be without them. You've had that feeling when you've left the house and you realise your phone's there? Like, not there?
Not at all. No.
No, of course not. You can survive with it. But the phones are great, right? They're doing more and more. They're just getting really expensive. So we worked out that for most New Zealanders, the biggest thing they would do with us is buy a phone. So how could we help our customers with that? So what we're trying to do is center all of our value into giving our customers phone dollars. So we started with it's all about rewarding you for how long you've been with us. Because customers say with us, I've been with you ages, it just seems like new customers get the best deal. So we wanted to turn that on its head. So not only how long you're with us, but how connected to us. Like, we exist because we want to be the best in the world at connecting New Zealanders. So, and we want to repay Kiwis for connecting with us. So Phone Dollars lets you'll earn up to 6% back on your pay monthly mobile and broadband bill with us.
This is sort of the consumer types of plans predominantly, but you're doing some stuff on the business side.
Yeah, we're about to unleash it at business as well, because we think there's a real opportunity to with a new proposition, because I guess consumer propositions have been moving really fast. We haven't really, and what our corporate and biggest customers are saying, you haven't moved your plans for us. So we've got a way where we can unleash One Wallet and Phone Dollars onto our enterprise and business customers. That way we can save them money. We can make sure their staff are on the best of what we've got, and they get the phone they want, not the phone they're given, which is normally not the one they want from businesses. So yeah, Phone Dollars is massively important to us, and it'll be the way that we reward our customers for being with us. And there's some Phone Dollars for everybody in New Zealand. You just have to go to, so that's even some customers on another network. So if you go to what'sinmywallet.one.nz, we'll be able to give you a little bit of a boost for coming over, and it will sit there. You don't have to come over straight away. It will sit there in your wallet until you're ready to buy a phone. Because, I mean, unashamedly, we just want to be the best place to buy a phone in New Zealand. And so we think we've got the network. We now think we've got the plans and propositions that also back it up.
Now, how does it practically work? Because I was having a look and I was trying to compare it to, say, your air points where you can just, you can go and just spend them. Looked like there is a kind of a tie-in to, and you could probably say this better than I can, but my impression was it becomes a sort of a credit towards a phone, which then you would pay the rest off across your term in a way. Like you need to commit to a term. Is that right? Have I? Yeah, I didn't read, haven't read all the details. Maybe there's something here on the communication side for you guys, to make it easy for people like me who are just trying to quickly get their head around how it works. But can you break that down a little bit on what are the particulars?
So obviously for a while now we've been offering phones on what we call them IFP, which isn't very helpful, and on an interest-free plan. So basically, we finance you into that next phone because we've found more and more New Zealanders haven't got $2,000 sitting in their wallet right away. So we help you through that. And what we also found is the phones are lasting longer. So we'll put that on a plan to up to 36 months for you, because phones are lasting 3 or 4 years. And so obviously when you're putting on that plan, you have to be a pay monthly mobile customer of us during that plan. So you're showing, when you sign up to that plan, you're showing that you're going to stick with us for a while. So we wanted to return, for that loyalty, we want to return to you a discount on your phone. But you're not locked in. So at any given time, say if you've got your phone on a 600, we give you 600 phone dollars, and you've decided to put it on a plan for 2 years. So after a year, you decide, no, I want to say trade down to prepay mobile. I don't want to pay the pay monthly mobile. I need to save some money. You can pay off your phone. And fairly, we'll give you, if you've been with us for half your term, we'll give you 300 of that discount, and the other 300 won't be there. So
okay. So
there is
the
no
dollars you get.
There is no
sort
lock
of spread over that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spread over that term to get the benefits.
Yeah, if you're loyal to us, we'll return that loyalty and discounts. So and we're seeing it. Yeah, we've literally got hundreds of millions of dollars in people's wallet. It makes my CFO very, very nervous, but it's been a good ride. I mean, it started as a prototype, only 18 months ago. It just got big really fast, and Phone Dollars will be the way you buy phones in New Zealand, and we think it's the best way.
Interesting. Okay. Well, it's good to have innovation. Good to have new things, new options coming through, and I guess it'll be one that people are probably watching from the outside and see how well that works for you. But I imagine for somebody that's on your network, there's not really any downsides if you've got money that's appearing there and given to you either because you've got, say, I've got a Dosh card, right, which used to give a a rebate back. Now that the rebates have been uncapped and they're coming, into that one NZ account, and then an incentive if you were to get a mortgage through Dosh as well, and then obviously whatever their. So does that link up with you guys directly? So what's coming off someone's monthly in terms of a rebate back into their wallet? That'll be in the same thing, or do you have to sort of merge them in some way?
Hey, so Dosh are one of our first partners, and you said you've had them on the podcast before. They're great. Like, it wouldn't be great if Dosh was like a Monzo or Revolut for New Zealand, do like a Trade Me, be amazing. So, yeah. So what we've negotiated with Dosh is that if you take a mortgage out with them and they're backed by another really good customer of ours, which is you get 1,700 phone dollars. So when you take out the mortgage, you get 1,700 phone dollars that go into, and so basically you're looking at a free phone. And then they also offer a debit card, and so for every $100 you spend on your debit card, 1% goes back into phone dollars. And when you compare that to other kind of cashback things that the rest of the banks are running, they're kind of down at 0.6 and 0.7%. So that's us and Dosh getting together, us putting some value in for our customers.
Yeah,
so
that's also a debit card, which I'm finding that it's more the credit cards where you'll get something back and not so much the debit card.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
it's
quite good.
Yeah, it's great. So, yeah, we hope they're going to be a big success in New Zealand.
Yeah, really fantastic having you on the show. Thank you, Joe.
No worries.
Good to get an update as well as sort of delving into the news of the week. And, of course, a big thank you to all our show partners, Fortinet, Workday, Gorilla Technology, Spark, 2 Degrees, and 1NZ. For folks that have been listening to the audio, do make sure you're following us across on video platforms as well. And if you've been watching the video, then make sure you're following us on your favourite audio or podcast app as well. Well, that's us for this week. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you on the next episode. And thank you, Joe.
No worries. Cheers.
Cheers.
The New Zealand Tech Podcast, brought to you by Gorilla Technology, proactive and strategic IT.